Hi guys, welcome back to What Fuels a Dancer. My name is Leah. I am a professional ballet dancer and a certified nutrition health coach. So in the last few videos, we talked about if dancers need to diet in order to be successful, and then we also talked about intuitive eating basics for dancers. Now, personally, I am an advocate for intuitive eating because it recognizes that each person has different nutritional needs and preferences when it comes to food. So if you have not seen those videos, I will link them up here on the screen, and you can also find them down below in the description box. So before we dive into intuitive eating more, I want to cover some nutritional basics. So over the next 3 videos, we are going to be covering the 3 different macronutrients. And today, we are going to be talking about carbohydrates, or carbs, or really what I like to call the love of my life when it comes to food. And we are going to cover why our bodies need them and if they really deserve the bad reputation that they sometimes get. So if you are a fellow carb lover like me, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and keep watching. So just as the usual disclaimer that I like to give, every body is different with different nutritional needs and preferences when it comes to food. So it is always best to speak to a nutrition professional like a dietitian, nutritionist, or certified health coach about your unique case. All right, let's move on to carbohydrates. So when you think of carbohydrates, you might think of things like bread, pasta, sugar, crackers, chips, etc. But there are many whole food carbohydrates that are packed with vitamins, minerals, and fiber that keep our body fueled and our bodily systems healthy and functioning. I think carbohydrates get a bad reputation sometimes because we think of refined carbohydrates, which we'll talk about more later. But foods like whole grains, beans, legumes, vegetables, and fruit are all great sources of carbohydrates. The main reason why we need carbohydrates in our diet are because they give us usable energy and they facilitate a healthy digestive system. It is recommended that you get about 45 to 65% of your total caloric intake from carbohydrates. So the amount of carbohydrates that a dancer needs will depend on you, your body, and what you're going through in terms of your dance load. So your needs will differ from other dancers. And carbohydrates are important for dancers because it gives us long-lasting energy throughout a long rehearsal day. Carbohydrates not only fuel our muscles, but it is also the main source of fuel for our brain, which means that it helps with our concentration and mental clarity in the studio. Okay, now we're gonna get a little bit sciencey here. All carbohydrates, no matter what type, all break down into glucose. And glucose is what our body uses for fuel. How quickly this process happens depends on the type of carbohydrate. And this is really important to know because it will help you figure out which type of carbohydrates will keep you fueled and full of energy for the entire day. All right, so there are 3 types of carbohydrates. First, we have simple carbohydrates. And we call them simple carbohydrates because they are made up of small compounds that our body is able to break down quickly to give us fast and usable energy. These are in foods like sugar, which is sucrose, dairy, which has lactose, and in fruit, honey, maple syrup, and agave, which is fructose. Now, obviously, some of these, like sugar and maple syrup or honey, you're not going to eat alone. But when you eat something like a piece of fruit all by itself when you are hungry, you might find that your energy levels and hunger levels are a little bit unstable. So for example, say that you are hungry in the middle of the day and you know that it's going to be several hours until you have your next meal. So you reach for an apple in your dance bag. And you might find that as you eat this apple, it fills you up because of its fiber as well as its volume from its water content. But 30 minutes later, you find that you're right back where you started, hungry again. Fruit is a really good food to incorporate into snacks because it has fiber as well as vitamins and minerals and antioxidants in it, but it is best to have it with some sort of protein or fat, so you not only get the quick energy, but it also has more staying power in terms of your hunger levels. On the other hand, complex carbohydrates contain larger compounds, starch, and tons of fiber. These take more time for the body to break down, digest, and absorb into the body. This prevents extreme changes in our blood glucose levels, meaning that we have stable and long-lasting energy levels. We find complex carbohydrates in whole grains like oats, brown rice, whole wheat, barley, and couscous. Pseudo grains are also a great source of complex carbohydrates, and these are foods such as amaranth, buckwheat, and quinoa. Vegetables, including starchy vegetables, are also on this list. And then we also have beans and legumes like black beans, chickpeas, and lentils, as well as split peas that are great sources of complex carbohydrates. And then finally, nuts and seeds are also on this list. Complex carbohydrates are also full of vitamins and minerals that support our body's many functions. So we will talk more about incorporating them into your daily meals later on in this video. All right, and then the last type of carbohydrates that I want to talk about are refined carbohydrates. And these are carbohydrates that have been broken down in a manufacturing process and have had some of its parts removed. Usually it's the fiber that has been removed from a refined carbohydrate. This means that refined carbohydrates act a lot like simple carbohydrates in our body, meaning that they are broken down quickly into glucose, providing us with quick energy, but it also leads to unstable energy and hunger levels when eaten alone. They also tend to not have as many nutrients as whole food carbohydrates because typically the parts that have been removed are the most nutrient-dense parts. These are foods like white rice, white bread, white flour, white pasta, as well as cereals, crackers, and chips. Now, these carbohydrates are not bad. In fact, these types of refined carbohydrates can be useful for dancers to have in between long days of classes and rehearsals, especially when paired with protein or fat. They help us to get in calories to sustain our energy levels throughout the entire day, as well as they give us quick energy. And then there's a second type of refined carbohydrates, which are processed or packaged foods that have added sugars in them. So these are things like candy, baked goods, packaged things like sugary cereals and snacks. And these are foods that shouldn't be completely restricted or seen as bad foods. I want you to see them in terms of fueling your body. For example, if you had a huge slice of cake in between rehearsals for lunch, and that was all that you had, you might have a quick spike in energy, but then an hour later, you might feel really tired in rehearsal. And this might also be accompanied by things like a headache, a stomach ache, or even mood swings. So only having a slice of cake for lunch might not be the best choice in terms of fueling your body for a long day of rehearsal. But having a small slice of cake to enjoy with a nourishing meal after a long day of rehearsals, sign me up. These foods are great to enjoy in moderation, and it allows us to truly savor some of these foods that we absolutely love. All right, you have probably heard me bring up fiber in this video. So what exactly is fiber? Fiber is a part of a carbohydrate that cannot be broken down into glucose by the body. And its role is to slow down the absorption of glucose into our bloodstream. And this helps us to avoid energy spikes as well as unstable hunger levels. This is why foods high in fiber, like complex carbohydrates and fruit, tend to give us stable energy and hunger levels. Fiber also helps with our digestion, meaning that it helps to regulate our bowel movements. And that means that it helps us poop. So when we look at a list of all the different types of carbohydrates, we might have some that we prefer or some that we might have some food rules against. When learning to eat carbohydrates intuitively, it's important to not look at a certain type of carbohydrate as off limits, but to see how our bodies use them differently and to see how they make us feel. So how do we incorporate all of these different types of carbohydrates into a long dance day? So before a dance, think of integrating complex carbohydrates. So these are things like oatmeal, quinoa, or other grain in a sweet or savory breakfast bowl, or whole grain toast or cereal are great to have as a part of your breakfast. Also, adding in some fruit or vegetables never hurt anyone. During a dance day, think about having carbohydrates that are quicker for your body to digest. And remember to have these with protein or fat for staying power. So having a sandwich, pasta salad, a smoothie packed with nuts and seeds, crackers and hummus, dried fruit in a trail mix, or fruit with a nut and seed butter are all great options. After dance, it is important to replenish the body. So complex carbohydrates are great to have here. Think about incorporating whole grains, vegetables, and starchy vegetables into your dinners. And of course, if you want a little bit of dessert or your favorite snack food, of course enjoy it. So carbohydrates are a macronutrient that is important for our energy, digestion, and brain function. As dancers, there are many ways that we can incorporate carbohydrates into our meals and snacks in order to fuel our dancing. In the next two videos, we are going to talk about protein and fat and how they are important for our health, especially as dancers. I have a link down below in the description box that has a blog post all about what we talked about today in this video. Also, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at What Fuels a Dancer. As always, be sure to like this video and subscribe so that you never miss a video. And leave a comment down below letting me know what is your favorite type of carbohydrate to have during a long dance day. And of course, let me know if you have any questions or if you have anything specific that you want to see in future videos. And I will see you guys all very soon. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.